People are calling 2024 a light year for superhero projects, but quite honestly, the schedule is really full, and some people have been asking the question if Sony could actually doom the whole genre. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about superhero fatigue, all those Sony movies coming next year, and why the slate is not as clear as many people are making it out to be. Now before we do that though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC videos, and we want to be your place for all the superhero news, but we're going to bring it to you truthfully and transparently so you are really in the know. While people are kind of referring to 2024 as a down year for superhero projects, there's one Marvel feature film released next year and nothing from DC. And with Beyond the Spider-Verse likely pushed, many people have been speculating this is exactly what the superhero genre needs. But honestly guys, I think people are totally misreading this, and unfortunately I think Sony could do a lot of damage. Now, next year's schedule is nowhere near as blank as everybody makes it out to be. We actually have multiple animated series from Marvel coming our way. We have Echo, we have Agatha, we have The Penguin, Joker Folie à Deux, the final season of Umbrella Academy, and of course, 3 potentially really bad movies from Sony. Now, the big fear here is superhero fatigue setting in. This is the idea that too much content over a short period of time not meeting quality standards basically makes audiences more or less sick of it and will cause them to stop watching and stop showing up at theaters. And quite honestly, we've seen the evidence of this start to manifest, especially in the last 18 months. Now, it's become fairly apparent over the years that there are those that are hoping to see these adaptations of our favorite heroes go the way of the Western or the rom-com. And many of us were hopeful that the little bit of break we might have coming our way in 2024 is exactly what that industry needs. As a matter of fact, James Gunn has said that out and out, that a break from DC content is exactly what will whet everybody's appetite. And if you remember what happened in COVID, well, people were pretty hungry for the content once it finally made its way back. Now, one thing I am super worried about next year is maybe the death blow to the whole genre. I actually am one that think we need a little bit of a downturn and time to digest the content we have, and also some time to get hungry for new stuff. And sadly, Sony has their fullest Spider-Man slate in a really long time. Now, I'm 99% sure Beyond the Spider-Verse is not going to hit theaters, and that movie is not part of the general problem. But Sony does have 3 other movies coming, and honestly, their recent track record has me worried. We know that Madam Web, Venom 3, and Kraven are all headed our way, and they each face fairly unique problems. Quite honestly, I think it's pretty fair to say that regular moviegoers are kind of sick of the multiverse-esque nature of many of Marvel Studios' recent stories. And honestly, The Flash didn't help that feeling at all. And now it seems like Madam Web was going to, well, dive very much into a very similar story. This movie itself seems to be building a very complicated storyline around adjacent timelines, and since this is from the writers of Morbius, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Now, on the plus side, it does seem like a pretty simple story. From what I've gathered, it's about someone from the future setting out to kill people he eventually believes will murder him. I actually think if Sony tries to keep it very simple and doesn't try to find ways to explain things like the lack of a Spider-Man or the MCU, well, they might be okay, but this movie does have all the markings of being a huge problem. The same kind of goes for Kraven the Hunter. On paper, Kraven seems like a pretty good idea, and they've got a decent filmmaker attached, and a pretty great cast. But honestly, that could have been said about Morbius before that film released. This is yet another Spider-Man villain that's going to have an origin story without Spider-Man, and that disconnects him from fans in ways that really make for the failure of a film. I guess to be fair, it can be said Sony has a tough time handling Peter Parker without Marvel Studios, or the strong presence of Lord and Miller like on the animated projects, so Kraven on his own might not be the worst thing that could happen. It will be an R-rated film, and we've seen a lot of gore in that Red Band trailer, not to mention the Rhino's going to be part of it, but again, I don't think it's something that could save the film. And then finally, we have Venom 3. Honestly, the first film was a lot of fun, and it did slip with the second one, although I did like their rather compelling version of Cletus Cassidy. But there doesn't seem to be very much enthusiasm for the upcoming film. Additionally, it's hard not to be somewhat concerned about those rumors that this version of Venom is attempting to track down the Peter Parker from his world, which he was made aware of during his brief stint in the MCU, which honestly was just weird. Again, this multiverse aspect of this film is something audiences are kind of sick of, and should this movie play too heavily into that, like Madam Web might, well then we'll have another big problem, another big failure, and another set of audience members that will not likely make their return to see more superhero projects. Now, we do have some good stuff headed our way next year that could keep the genre itself in the top 10 box office returns, with Deadpool 3 and the Joker sequel both expected to do near $1 billion, but 3 really bad and poorly performing movies, while quite honestly could deliver a death blow to the industry leading into a very packed and expensive 2025. 2025 is going to see Superman Legacy, Captain America, The Thunderbolts, and a lot more come our way. And if audiences aren't primed and hungry for those features, they're likely not to show up, and honestly, 1 or 2 really more bad years for the genre, we could see a drastic reduction in the number of projects. Hopefully this works out for the best, but I want everybody to pay close attention to this, and if you have any excitement to see these Sony projects, try to find your way to the theater, because I really do fear their success will be critical to the future of the genre in general. But we'll have to wait and see.